to Survive and Advance on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm your co-host for Survive and Advance, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my other co-host, 1981 national champion, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Doing great today, Mike. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. And officially today, I will be combine ready because I measured out at 6'1.5". And here to talk about that and all the other inane NFL news from the FF Faceoff, which you can hear on YouTube, The Grueling Truth, Anthony Cervino. How you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing great, guys. How are you?
All right. Now, I did send out that I was officially 6'1.5", so I'm expecting to be drafted by the Redskins midway through the draft, Anthony. Is this really that big of a deal that he's 5'10"?
For me personally, I would like my quarterback a little bit taller, but when you see somebody like Russell Wilson excel the way he does, then it's really difficult to knock Kyler Murray for it.
Steve, what do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I think the era of the short quarterbacks, I mean, I know Russell Wilson's a great example, but how tall is Baker Mayfield? How tall is he?
No,
he's not that tall, is he?
6'1", right around there. Give or
6'1".
take.
I mean, I guess the only concern I would have is that I see 6'5", 6'6" quarterbacks getting passes batted down like crazy by defensive linemen now because they've become so agile and so, athletic. I don't know if it's an issue or not. I mean, I think Kyler Murray's a kid who's got footwork and scrambling ability to get away from that and throw outside the pocket a lot more is what I'm going to presume. But I'd probably, in this day and age, a 5'11" quarterback is probably a very big minority in the NFL, in my opinion. Well, it's a risk.
I don't think it's a risk at all. I don't see what it matters because we've had a ton of quarterbacks that were 6'4", 6'5", 6'6" that have failed, Anthony. And I think the problem is this, and we're going to talk about the Combine today, but to me, none of that matters. You go watch his film and see if the kid can play. Kyler Murray can play. The question is, does his game compute to the pro game? And when I look at that, I have questions. I mean, Baker Mayfield, anybody that listens to us knows I had no questions about Baker. My problem with Kyler is more of a personality thing where if you saw the interviews during the Super Bowl week, he's really quiet, laid back, and not that quarterbacks like that can't succeed. Eli and Peyton Manning have shown you can succeed to a certain extent that way. But when I look at this, I worry more about his personality than his size because I could really give less than a crap about his size because if he would have been 5'9.5", then all of a sudden most of the teams that want him doesn't want him anymore, and that is stupid.
Yeah, I was. You brought up what was going on during the Super Bowl. I was a little rubbed off by that, too, because I do expect a little bit more out of, somebody who's supposed to be a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, and when I look at that, we talk about leadership, Steve, and we've had this discussion. I've had the argument with Colin Hartman before on the Indiana basketball show. I don't think you have to be a real vocal guy to be a leader, and we've seen guys in history that were, but the majority are.
I mean, are they, Mike? I mean, you got Tom Brady. Would you call Tom Brady a vocal guy, leader?
Big time.
Would
Anthony? Hold on, I want to make sure I'm not misconstruing this. But Anthony, what do you think?
You're right, because I'm thinking about he does his vocal leadership on the sidelines. You're right. I mean, I'm now replaying clips in my mind right now. Yeah, he's very vocal on the sideline. Manning was vocal. Elway was vocal. Montana was, I think a quarterback's got to be a vocal leader. I mean, I think he has to be able to stand up and take the heat and dish it out and put the weight on his shoulders. And that's what they get paid the big bucks for. So, I think that's one of the qualities. And that's probably what's made Baker Mayfield so good so early is I think he came out fired up and became a vocal leader on that team as soon as he got control of that offense, in my opinion, for what it's worth.
You need to be able to not play the media, but play the game. Otherwise, the media is going to eat you alive. And that's what Baker Mayfield did so well, is that anything the media threw at him, he threw it right back. and
Right.
people loved him for it.
Yeah, kind of the deal he did with his former coach. What was the guy's name? I can't remember his name anymore. Mike. It's
Hugh
Jackman. Hugh. When he just kind of threw it.
Hugh Jackson. Okay.
Hugh Jackman.
You said
Hugh
Hugh Jackman,
Hugh
and all of a sudden I got
Hugh
confused.
Jackman's an actor. I'm in Hollywood. I get actors and athletes mixed up all the time, dadgummit, because everybody's got the similar names. So give me a break. Jackman, Jackson, whatever. It's close. But, just like how he handled, Hugh Jackson on the sideline, just flipping him off and doing it. I mean, there's cockiness in it. I think you want that quarterback to have that arrogance in him and that leadership ability to say, I will get in your face if you're not doing what you're doing. But he also, and I know you don't like Manning, but you say Manning always, hung his head and walked off like he was a whimpering crybaby. And it's fair. I mean, I think back on that too, it's really fair.
Eli Manning is the epitome of a quiet leader to me. You don't see Eli with his head down. Eli says stuff, but he's basically a quiet guy.
Right. And he's taken more shit than any quarterback in the NFL in the last 10 years.
Yeah, with 2 Super Bowl rings.
With 2 Super Bowl rings in his figures, yeah, exactly. But still, he's been the most beguiled quarterback in the NFL. But he plays in New York. Like Anthony said, he deals with the media more than anybody does because he's in New York City.
Yeah, but what's impressive about him is he's quiet like that and gets away with it in New York.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Yeah, he doesn't piss anybody off. He doesn't say anything. He just doesn't. The team just doesn't perform, and they get pissed at him for that. But he doesn't piss off any media and fire back at him, and they don't really pick on him personally. They just pick on his performance, which is, I think not fair either.
All right, Anthony,
So,
when we look at this, I think the thing that stands out to me is I wrote a mock draft having Kyler Murray going in the first round or the first pick 2 weeks ago, because I think there's a relationship between him and Cliff Kingsbury, who recruited him at Texas Tech. And the thing that stood out to me was the day after Kingsbury was announced the head coach, Kyler Murray decided he wanted to play football, which is when I started to think this is the way this was going to go. But I think the thing that solidifies here is at 5'10", I don't think the Cardinals are going to get as much grief from everybody for picking him.
My I guess issue with all of that is all the pressure that's on the Cardinals organization right now. I mean, they were borderline being talked about as a Super Bowl team a couple years ago with Carson Palmer, and you have a lot of those same players, David Johnson and Larry Fitzgerald. I think there's a lot of pressure on Steve Keim, the general manager, because if he goes ahead and drafts Kyler Murray, then it's almost an admission of, being wrong or screwing up by drafting Josh Rosen, unless you get the compensation needed.
Yeah, but the problem here is this. If he sticks with Josh Rosen, he's going to lose his job. Because Josh Rosen is not an NFL quarterback. He's just not. So when you look at it, wouldn't it be better to bail now and take a shot at Murray or somebody else? Or would it be better to stay with Josh Rosen, who's a sinking ship and is going to get everybody fired?
I haven't bought into Josh Rosen. A lot of it is because when you saw all these other rookie quarterbacks flash, and given he doesn't have a lot of talent around him with the offensive line, didn't have a lot of time, got hit a lot, so did Josh Allen. And Josh Allen still got the job done a little bit by taking off on the ground, showing, listen, I'm going to weather the storm any way I can. Josh Rosen, you didn't really see that with. And if the Cardinals are going to go ahead and move him, what are they going to get for him?
Well,
are they going to get value?
Well, my guess is this. There's still a lot of teams desperate for a starting quarterback, and the Redskins are owned by Daniel Snyder, so maybe they make a move for him. I think this, no matter what you get for him, you got to get him out of there. He never should have been picked. It was the dumbest pick in the draft last year. And if they don't cut ties with Rosen, this team is just going to be a mess. Cliff Kingsbury will never have a fair shot to coach an NFL team because he doesn't have an NFL quarterback.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Of you two guys, because you're the football geniuses. What does the Eagles not franchising Nick Foles do to Kyler Murray? I mean, does that change his draft position? Somebody says, I can spend money on an unknown Kyler Murray, or I can go take a known and spend my money on Nick Foles. Does that change the game any, Mike or Anthony?
I don't think it does,
I don't
Anthony.
think
Because I don't think he's going to be an Eagle now. I mean, I guess they're not franchising him.
He's not going to be
stay
there.
there.
And now he's free to go wherever he wants.
Where he wants to go, right. So does that change the game?
No.
No, because he was always available. Other NFL teams knew that the Eagles, there's no way you could pay Foles what he wants to keep him, and then you got to pay Carson Wentz coming up, and then have two, $15, $20 million quarterbacks are going to be on your roster. So if they did tag him, all that was going to do was jam him up, and it was going to jam themselves up, because if you tag him, then you're on the hook if he signs that franchise tag. And then you have to kind of go through a trade partner. What they did, I think they did right by Nick Foles and just let him go.
Yeah, and when you look at this,
Nick Foles was always available.
It would change it if there was only one team that needed a quarterback, and that team got Nick Foles.
Right.
When you look
but
at
does
this,
it knock Kyler Murray down?
Nah.
Because let's say the Cardinals need a quarterback. Do they take Kyler Murray, or do they say, I'm going to spend my money and go get Nick Foles?
Here's the interesting thing. If they were to get Nick Foles, then that's perfect for the Cardinals, Anthony, because if they get Nick Foles, they could trade out of that number one pick and get multiple picks to help build the team around them. And then you could have a team that needs a quarterback, like the Giants, the Jaguars, whoever doesn't get Nick Foles, may be willing to trade up and basically ransom a huge amount of players and draft picks to be able to get Kyler Murray.
I think that's smart, a smart move. I just don't see the Cardinals doing it.
No, because they're not smart. That's why they signed Josh Rosen.
Yeah.
Mike, you ever burr up your ass with Josh Rosen?
Hey,
That'd be fair to say?
Well, I think this. I just think he sucks. He never should have been picked. And the fact that guys like him and Tim Tebow and all the multitude of first-round quarterbacks that have been picked, that have been complete and utter failures, shows you that NFL front offices are stupid. On the most part, most NFL scouts are short, fat guys that never did anything.
Put Brady Quinn in there, too.
Yeah. Was he drafted in the first round?
Yes.
I think he was, by Cleveland. Yeah.
Well, and this is the thing.
He was.
I can tell you this. From going to numerous NFL workout days, like at the University of Cincinnati, the year that Jared Lorenzen got hurt, I needed another quarterback. So I went up to watch these guys work out. And when we go into the room with all the NFL scouts, I swear to God, 90% of them were 5'6" and weighed 300 pounds. And basically, they were more interested in eating donuts than doing anything else. So when that happens, those stubby, short, little fat glazed fingers have a tendency to type in things that aren't there. So
and I know that's true because I know when I was playing basketball, I was listed anywhere from 6'7" to 6'10" on different various programs. I mean, and I was never taller than 6'8". I'm a solid 6'8". Now that I'm 60, I may be 6'7.5". Who knows? Because you shrink as you get older. But the height thing is really ridiculous because I look at the program and an away game, they'd have me listed at 6'10". Like, I am not 6'10". I never touched 6'10" in my life. So I don't know. But the relevance into what it means, I leave that up to you two guys because you're the football geniuses. Well, I would prefer to have a bigger, stronger, faster Andrew Luck type of quarterback if I'm going to spend that kind of money on a quarterback.
Well, see, what I want is I want a guy like Russell Wilson. And Kyler Murray, I don't think is that guy. I think he is similar. I think Kyler Murray has a high ceiling. I have questions about him. Kyler Murphy is worth a mid-round pick. Nothing more. I don't think, and I don't know, let's get Anthony's opinion. There's 4 quarterbacks here that I think are going to go in the first round. You got Kyler Murray, Dwayne Haskins. I think Daniel Jones goes mid to late. I think Drew Lock could slip in there, especially if a team gets desperate. Number 1, who do you think are the best of those 4, Anthony? And on top of that, I mean, just who do you think is the best of those 4? And out of those 4, how many of them do you think are actually first-round quarterbacks?
Yeah, I'm not in love with this year's quarterback class. I don't think it's on the same level as last year's. But right now, as things sit, I like Haskins.
Really? Why?
He might be the most NFL ready.
How? I mean, he has never read a defense. I mean, the Ohio State Buckeyes play an offense where, kind of like Jamarcus Russell's at LSU, and I don't think Haskins is going to be that bad, but it's basically, I don't think he could read progression really well. And when you watch his feet don't move with his hands. So he, pre-snap decisions, I don't think he's very good with. And I don't think that he throws people open that well. I think he shows the possibility to be able to do that. But the other thing that scares me away from him, he's been a starter for 1 year. How many guys have turned out to be great quarterbacks that were 1 year college starters, as opposed to how many guys like the Achilles Smiths that we've seen that have been 1 year starters and then flame out because they're not prepared? I think when you look at it, I think Daniel Jones is the most NFL ready of all these guys. But I think Haskins is a bust. If somebody's going to pick him, and whoever does it, they're going to suffer for the next 3 years for it.
Would you say Haskins is like the Rams quarterback, Goff, more like Goff?
No, I think he could be better. I think he could be better than Goff with the right coach.
Wow.
I mean,
Goff's not any good. Yeah, Super Bowl quarterback.
I'm not arguing with you. Mike, I don't argue with you in football.
Remember this.
You know it.
Hey, remember this. Trent Dilfer and Brad Johnson won Super Bowls. Jim McMahon won a Super Bowl. You stick anybody with the 85 Bears defense, you just got to not screw it up. Go ahead, Anthony.
No, he did play one season as a starter, but he also threw 50 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Against pretty good competition.
Against poor competition. It's poor competition. The Big Ten football is so much slower than SEC football that it's unreal. And the thing is this, did we see him play in SEC school? I don't think we did. And like I said, his ball placement is inconsistent because his feet and his hands are not always where they're supposed to be. Sometimes they are. He's inconsistent. But his footwork and mechanics to me are out of whack. And the thing that concerns me about that is his quarterback's coach was Ryan Day, who is now the head coach at Ohio State. And he has a great reputation for teaching quarterbacks. And my only question is he had him for 2 years, and this is still an issue. And I don't think that there is one NFL coach, quarterback's coach, that is nearly as good as Ryan Day. And if Ryan Day couldn't fix him, I don't know how these other guys can. I mean, his best hope is to get with a private quarterback's coach who can fix this stuff. You could get with Jeff Christensen.
Are you still talking about Haskins? Are we still on Haskins?
Yeah,
Okay. I mean, is it not fair to say, though, that he's considered the best passing quarterback in the draft? I mean, is that not a fair comment?
No, because I just said I don't think he is.
You don't think he is? Okay.
No, and I don't care what anybody else thinks. And if you go through and look at my mock drafts for the last 3 years on the Grueling Truth, I don't think I've missed on too many quarterbacks. And I think the kid has the capability in the right spot. He can't go somewhere where he's got to start right away. And I think that would be a disaster.
Well, I mean, they have him. A lot of guys have him pegged to the Giants. He's a New Jersey guy, and he wouldn't have to start immediately, assuming they keep Eli Manning this year, and then, you draft Haskins for next year, because David Gettleman yesterday during the Combine presser did kind of say, they like what the Chiefs did with Pat Mahomes and Alex Smith. So they could be hinting toward possibly taking Haskins.
Yeah. Well, if they do that, I think they're stupid, because I think next year's quarterback draft is much better. But on top of that, I think Eli Manning's still good enough to go to the playoffs. And I think they're just a couple players on defense and a couple players on offense, basically linemen, away from being able to win that division, Anthony.
I think they're further away than that. And I know I'm a Cowboys fan, and I'm not.
No, because the Cowboys aren't even relevant, because the Eagles are the only team that can win the Super Bowl in that division. The Cowboys could win the division if that makes sense. But with their coaching and the way that team is run, they're not going to win a Super Bowl. That's why they haven't sniffed it since 1995.
So that's another story for another day. I think the Cowboys can put themselves into contention if they do right with the salary cap in this offseason and try to get a player like Earl Thomas changes that.
Hey,
he doesn't.
God,
he doesn't
thanks for reminding
anything.
me. Anthony,
Jason Garrett's the coach. Go ahead.
Anthony, I just got to rub it in. How about my boy Randy Gregory?
Yeah, that's,
what an idiot.
I just hope the guy gets it,
He's going to just
he's
his
not.
career.
This has plagued him since he was in college. He's not going to get it.
I coached him in high school. I told you I coached him in basketball in high school. Yeah, and he's just, golly darn. I love the kid. He's the nicest kid in the world. Jiminy Christmas, and he's got great parents, is what just kills me. His parents are wonderful people. He's pissing away his football career. He's going to be back in Fishers, Indiana, doing something stupid pretty soon.
Smoking weed.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, Anthony. What do you make of that? I mean, is he just not fixable?
No.
I mean, if it's an addiction thing, and that's what it sounds like it is, then you know how addiction can be.
What's he addicted to?
Pot's not addictable. You don't get addicted to pot.
Is.
You cannot.
Wait a second. Yes, you can.
No, it's not.
Dude, I can tell you this. Yes, listen. Hear me out. You could get addicted to anything, especially if you have an addictive personality. You could get addicted to Coca-Cola or Pepsi and have withdrawals getting off of it. You can't tell me you can't get addicted.
Then that explains why I come on this show with you every day. I'm just freaking addicted to you.
I know. I'm like that. I make people get addicted. But I don't even.
All right. I just want to throw it. I feel bad for Randy. I mean, I don't feel bad because he made his own mess, but that's a shame for the Cowboys because he's a key player for him, and I know the kid personally, and it just
how about
he's
this,
just pissing away his life.
Steve, this is my point. If it's not addictive. Randy Gregory wanted to do it so bad that he gave up playing in the NFL to do it. To me, he's addicted.
Josh Gordon,
too. Yeah.
Well, Josh Gordon.
Yeah.
I think Josh Gordon is more of a mental illness than anything else.
In that definition of addictiveness, that's true, Mike. So I will not debate you on that one.
Yeah, I mean,
so
if you
just won't quit doing it, it's addictive, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
If you can't give up, and I think this overall for the general public, it's not addictive, but some people it is.
It's just like me. I'm addicted to the Kardashians. I can't give them up.
Yeah, well, that should keep you kicked off of everything.
You're going to kick me off this show.
All right, so out of the 4 quarterbacks, how many are actually first-round quarterbacks? Because to me, the way you just talked about Haskins means he's probably really a late first-round quarterback. And my reason for saying that is this. If you pick a guy number 6, he should be able to start right away.
I don't know if there's if the NFL wasn't what it is with quarterbacks and media hype, I don't know if there's a top 10 quarterback in this draft.
No, there's not. I mean, I don't think there is. I think the closest guy to it is Kyler Murray. I think Kyler Murray, and he only played 1 year, which once again scares the hell out of me there. So I don't think this is a Baker Mayfield thing. If I had to rank him, if I had to take somebody to start my football team, I would take Kyler Murray because I think he is more ready than everybody else because I think in the offense they run at Oklahoma with Lincoln Riley, they run the air raid, a variation of the air raid with a tight end, and it's kind of what Cleveland ended up running after they got Baker Mayfield. So I think the other thing is this. Cliff Kingsbury coached at Texas Tech. He is a disciple of Mike Leach, who ran the air raid, as was Lincoln Riley. The only difference was Lincoln Riley morphed it into more of an NFL offense by having a fullback and a tight end at times. And I think Kingsbury is going to run his offense to fit him. If I'm Kingsbury, I want Murray because I think Murray at the number 1 pick makes you safe for 2 or 3 years.
Is this a year, Mike, that it's more critical than ever that the top 4 pick quarterbacks who are out there that we think are going to go high, they need to get with the right team to be successful. I mean,
that's
this is
how
not
it is
like
for
you
every
can
quarterback.
just take.
I think it's
but
how it
for
is for everyone.
but for like you take like an Andrew Luck, he could have gone anywhere and been successful. And there's other quarterbacks. I'm just using Andrew Luck because he's a Colts quarterback. I mean,
I don't think so.
He could have gone. Luck could have
gone
gone to any program and made it a better program. It started right away.
Well, he'll be a good quarterback in any situation you put him in. But
right,
this is the problem.
But can
with
these guys
Andrew
do
Luck.
that?
Hold on, now. This is the problem with Andrew Luck.
Okay.
I don't think the offense that they run right now with Andrew Luck is conducive to Andrew Luck being as good as Andrew Luck can be. Now, I don't know if that's because of the shoulder injury and whether he just doesn't have what he used to have and they have to dumb it down for him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think no matter who the quarterback is, Joe Montana, if you would have made him an Arizona Cardinal, would have been a really good quarterback. Tom Brady, if you'd have made him a Cleveland Brown, would have been a really good quarterback. Maybe they win a Super Bowl with those teams. But nobody would talk about him as the greatest of all time because everybody always says, that quarterback is a system quarterback. What people don't realize is every quarterback is a system quarterback. And the reason almost every one of these quarterbacks is an all-time legend, had an all-time legendary coach, is because they either brought that quarterback in because he fit the system, or they brought that quarterback in and then designed their system to fit him. Where you get a guy like Hugh Jackson, he got Baker Mayfield, and he did not start him because Tyrod Taylor actually fit the offense he wanted to run better. And when Baker Mayfield played in that offense with Hugh Jackson, he was good, but he wasn't as successful as when he left. Freddie Kitchens updated the offense to be a little bit more user-friendly for Baker Mayfield, and then all of a sudden Baker Mayfield takes off. Do you agree, Anthony? Or
yeah, I do.
I agree too.
Overall,
entirely.
all this is about where you go and who your head coach is. If your head coach is Hugh Jackson, you're going to suck. Go ahead.
So where does Haskins need to go, Mike? Where does Haskins and Kyler Murray, where do they need to go?
Kyler Murray, it's just, are they, wherever they go, are they going to fit the offense? Or will that offense fit them? So Cliff Kingsbury, to me, I think he's necessarily not a great hire, but I think if you throw Kyler Murray there, and he's running a version of the air raid with the tight end and the fullback that the Browns went to after about week 7 last year, I think Arizona's the best place for him. With Dwayne Haskins, the best place is a place he doesn't have to start right away, which may be the Giants. But even if he doesn't start right away, your problem is the next year when he starts, it'll have been basically 2 years since he played, and when he last played, he was only a college starter for a year. Same thing with Murray, but what you're doing with Murray is you're putting him in the almost exact same offense probably that he was in. So he can just continue to progress through that. With Haskins, the offense that Ohio State runs is not an NFL offense. And, I mean, hell, in the history of football, how many Ohio State quarterbacks have been successful when they went to the NFL? It's like Alabama.
Art Schleister?
He was successful for a year, and then the gambling addiction thing kicked in. But Alabama...
You can't be addicted to gambling either.
Hey, this is the thing. Alabama is a school that when Saban brought them back to prominence, he did it by having quarterbacks that fit his system. That system was not NFL compatible, which is guys like A.J. McCarron and whoever else they had before that won all the time they weren't able to make the jump to the NFL. But as soon as he got a talent like Tua Tagovailoa, all of a sudden they're running more of an NFL offense. So Tua will come out and he'll be ready to play right away. He'll be the first player taken next year, and he'll be extremely good. Trevor Lawrence, same thing. Clemson will change their offense to the quarterback. The offense they ran with Kelly Bryant at the start of the year was not the same offense they ran with Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence in 2 years will be the first pick in the draft. Both of those guys will be studs. They'll be Pro Bowlers, and wherever they go, will probably win multiple Super Bowls. There is nobody in this draft. This is the thing. If you draft a guy in the top 5 as a quarterback, if he doesn't win multiple Super Bowls, Anthony, to me, he's a bust.
Yeah, we've seen a lot over the time, it seems like.
Yeah, and when you look at it, a guy like Dak Prescott can never be a bust. He was drafted in, the 4th round. He's already taken the Cowboys to the playoffs twice. Who the hell thought he would do that? Most people thought when he was drafted, if he made the team, he would be a lifetime backup.
Romo's backup.
Yeah. And then they
Romo's backup.
Yeah, and then when Romo retires, they draft somebody else to be the starter. Prescott would be a 10-year backup if he was good enough to do that. So when you get a guy like Dak Prescott, the other thing is there's no pressure. And I don't think it's any coincidence that the top 2 quarterbacks in NFL history, Brady and Montana, came in as 3rd and 6th round picks. There's no pressure. You can develop a quarterback a lot easier if you don't have the owner breathing down your neck saying, hey, I paid him all this money. I want to see him play. And
that's exactly how, Bill Parcells, that's exactly how we brought in Romo. He was like his little project. There was no pressure from Jerry Jones to get him in the game. They wanted Bledsoe.
Yeah, because there was no pressure. But Bledsoe, there's pressure because he had a lot of money that they paid him. Correct? If I remember right. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. It was at the end of his career, but they definitely paid him a little bit.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of things that contribute to a quarterback being great. The main thing, though, is when you look at him, I don't know about you, but when I looked at Andrew Luck, I knew he was a stud. The first time I saw John Elway, I knew he was a stud. Ben Roethlisberger, knew he was a stud. When I watch these guys, I don't know that. I just don't. There's nobody I see here that I think, man, I would have to have this guy. And if that is not the case with him, I don't see how you pick him in the top 10.
When a team mortgages their future and they trade up to get these quarterbacks, or like you said, the first, whoever's drafting number 1, if they decide to take you, they believe you are their future for the next 12 years, and in those 12 years, you're going to win a Super Bowl. That is why these teams draft the quarterbacks earlier, trade up, because there's the belief of success for the next 10 to 12 years.
Yeah, and the problem with that is if you're wrong, you just set your whole program back 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
And the other problem is this. Everybody is willing to take that risk on guys that they're not sure about. Most of these guys that are drafted anymore in the first round that are quarterbacks, the teams are hoping that they are good. They don't know. They're just hoping. And that's a bad way to do business.
Are the days of seeing 1 to 2? I'm sorry, Steve. Let's go.
No.
1 or 2
I want to finish out the quarterback conversation because I have a question that's going to direct us off the quarterbacks.
Okay.
But let's finish the quarterback conversation first. So
I was going to say, are the days of only 2 quarterbacks being selected in the first round over? Are we at the point to where we're just going to see 4 to 5 guys go in the first round every year with teams almost playing luck of the draw?
Yeah, that's what we've seen. We've seen it for the last decade more and more, and it's basically just desperation. And the big problem is this. You've got guys that have never played quarterback that are quarterback coaches on NFL teams. Hell, you got guys that were running backs or wide receivers that are now quarterbacks coaches. They don't have the proper people there to develop it. They just don't. It's like taking a kid and put him in a Spanish class taught by somebody that only knows how to speak English. It's just not going to work.
So in the free agent market, then does this up Foles' value? I mean, there's not a lot to pick, according to you two guys. Does this make Foles all the more valuable?
Look at what we saw last year, Steve. We saw Case Keenum after a above-average year. Everybody was all over him. So all these teams that may draft a quarterback, they're probably all going to take a shot at Foles because they're all desperate for a quarterback. I mean,
so Foles probably becomes at the end of this courting, Foles probably becomes the highest paid player in the NFL. My gut feeling would say
no.
No?
But he'll make a lot of money. He'll make a lot of money.
Yeah.
But I would say he's got to make more money than Case Keenum, doesn't he, Anthony?
I think so. Yeah, just because, what he's done at the end of the season and in the playoffs and obviously in the Super Bowl, he's going to get rewarded for that. But if we remember, the last time Foles was a free agent, or Foles was whatever it was, he signed or he was dealt to the Rams, Foles was a bust when he signed as a free agent the last time.
But that was Jeff Fisher.
Case Keenum.
That was Jeff Fisher. And remember
Another
this.
one of Mike's favorites.
Well, remember this. Case Keenum got to Texas to the playoffs, ended up going to the Rams, and he completely flamed out. Who was the coach? Jeff Fisher.
Jeff Fisher.
Vince Young was the Rookie of the Year with Jeff Fisher as his coach. 2 years later, he's pretty much out of the league. And what this all comes back to is Jeff Fisher sucks.
No argument there.
You know what? Jared Goff sucked ass big time his rookie year. Who was his coach? Jeff Fisher. Jeff Fisher left.
Didn't Fisher win am I wrong? Did Fisher win a Super Bowl, though, with the Rams when they were in St. Louis?
No. He lost to the Rams
Okay.
with the Titans. But what people forget is this. I think he spent the last
Does Fisher have a Super Bowl ring?
No. He spent the last 9
he
years
didn't?
of his
Okay.
career, last 9 years, under 500.
Okay. All right. Fair.
Jeff Fisher sucks.
So,
all right, Steve, go ahead and transition it.
So here's my question for you guys, and because I enjoy your conversation. You guys are geniuses on this. If this is not a quarterback-laden draft, what is the strength of this year's class? What
Defensive
position?
line.
Okay, so talk about that. Let's go there, and who are the players there, and who's up on
first
that,
off,
and let's
Anthony, do you agree with me? I don't think there's any doubt defensive line is the best in this draft.
you got Quinnen Williams of Alabama, Josh Allen,
Nick Bosa.
You got Ed Oliver of Houston,
I think
Nick
the
Bosa.
D-line
Good, Anthony.
D-line is pretty strong.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's some hype with the wide receivers, but I'm reading from a lot of draft experts that tight end is the best it's been in a long time.
Yeah, but it's probably 5 or 6 deep. Defensive lineman-wise, if people pick the best players in this draft, there'd probably be 12 to 15 defensive linemen go.
And to you, is Nick Bosa hands down the number one defensive lineman on a board?
No, I don't think he is. Everybody else will think he is. I don't. I like Quinnen Williams. I think Quinnen Williams is actually the safest pick, but I think he's the best pick too. I think he is a guy that can control the line of scrimmage from the interior, similar to Geno Atkins, maybe even Donald. And when I look at it, Ed Oliver from Houston is a stud, and somebody's going to take him, a little bit lower than what they should get him, so they're going to be good.
Does he have size issues, Mike? Does Ed Oliver have size issues?
I don't care about size issues because what I look at here is, who'd you bring up there?
Ed Oliver?
Oh, okay. Hold on. What?
No.
Why, you need something? Oh, that was my wife
Mike's
interrupting
gotta
us,
take care of
so
his,
it's all right. Yeah.
Does she want to have? Is she wanting to? Can she stay out of the bedroom for 40 minutes so we can do the show?
Oh, you said that about my wife.
Well, I thought you were such a stud, though. I thought that's where she wanted to go.
Do you want to talk to Steve on here, honey, and tell him something? No, she won't. But I would say...
I love your wife. I love your wife more than I love you.
To me, Ed Oliver is close also. I think these guys both have similarities to Aaron Donald. I think Aaron Donald has more pass rushing moves. I think he's slightly more powerful. But I think Oliver and Williams are guys that are going to be instant starters. I think Jeffrey Simmons from Mississippi State. I really like Christian Wilkins. And I think two guys that are going to be steals as defensive linemen that may not go to the second round to me, Anthony, or Jerry Tillery from Notre Dame and Dexter Lawrence from Clemson.
Do you think that they're both going to fall to the second?
I think they could fall to the second because, remember, we've already said we're going to rush 4 quarterbacks. And with the tight ends and wide receivers being as good as they are, you know how this works. Once a Metcalf goes at pick 14, then all the teams that want a wide receiver are going to freak out and overpick stuff too.
Yeah, there's going to be some good value.
Falling. Oh, there's going to be some.
It always seems like there is.
Yeah, there's going to be some starter defensive linemen that fall to the 4th and 5th round, I think, in this draft. Guys like Daylon Mack, Cortez Broughton from Cincinnati, Gerald Willis from Miami. Those are guys that are probably going to go 3rd round or later that I think are going to be solid starters almost right away.
Is there a team in the NFL that can't use another defensive lineman? I mean, to me, I think it's such a critical position now in the NFL. And, you know, I go back to, I follow the Colts coach, anybody, you know, we're weak there on the defensive line. I know the Colts need an edge rusher. That's what everybody's projecting them to draft. Is there a team that doesn't need defensive linemen to bolster up their pass rush?
No. Every team needs defensive
No, I
linemen.
mean, as good as the Rams are, there's some mocks out there predicting them to take Brian Burns, the edge rusher out of Florida State, at 31. And the Rams have a stacked pass rush and defensive line.
Yeah, but you also had the possibility of losing some of those in the offseason, too.
Yeah, I know Dante Fowler's a free agent, Sue's a free agent, and Dominique Easley. So they could lose, 1 or 2 in free agency.
Steve.
So is that becoming a more coveted position than a quarterback, really, given the talent level of quarterbacks?
Obviously not, because they're not going to pick one at number 1, probably. But they could, because you could have Nick Bosa go there.
So you don't think Nick Bosa is going to go number 1? Because every mock draft I've seen pretty much has Nick Bosa.
Not mine.
As
I
number
got
1
Kyler
pick.
Murray going number 1, remember?
Okay, yeah, you do. And you got lambasted on Facebook for that.
It doesn't matter.
I was reading all your hate mail on that today.
Everything I wrote was true, though. And if you look at my last mock draft, at the end of it, and this is 2 weeks ago, I told everybody Kyler Murray is going to be over 5'10", and then the whole world is going to freak out by March 1st. And what happened? I mean, the biggest story today on ESPN all morning has been the fact that a guy is 5'10" instead of 5'9.5". This will tell you how incompetent NFL scouts are. A half inch is not a big deal. It's just not.
Anthony, does Nick Bosa go number 1?
I have him going number 1 currently. But if he doesn't, and it is going to be Kyler Murray, Nick Bosa is not going to make it past San Francisco. Both of those teams, including the Cardinals, they need a pass rusher. They need to put somebody on the other side of Chandler Jones, Robert, and I can never say his last name right, and Dean Kache. He looks like a bust. He can't stay healthy, so they need to, get the pass rush going, especially in a division with Jared Goff, Russell Wilson, and Jimmy Garoppolo in it.
Well, I think what you see, Anthony, is this: if Kyler Murray goes number 1, Bosa goes to the 49ers, and if Bosa goes number 1, I think you see the 49ers trade down.
Yeah, I mean, they could go Josh Allen in that spot or Quinton Williams, but yeah, the 49ers, they could really get a lot for that number 2 pick.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Especially by a quarterback-needy team.
Yeah, and especially when you got quarterback-needy teams that are poorly run. You can take advantage of them all day. And I love Bosa. I think Bosa's the best edge rusher here. I just think this. I think I put more value on a stud defensive tackle because I think there are a lot fewer and far between in the NFL than any other position. I mean,
I would agree with that, Mike.
If you go pop up the greatest defensive tackles in the game right now, I mean, the two that stand out to me are Aaron Donald and Geno Atkins. There's a few other guys I think are really good. But you give me pass rushing defensive ends, I could give you a lot of those. And the other thing is this. It seems
Yeah, I'll buy into that.
Yeah, and it seems to me that pass rushing defensive ends have a higher tendency to be a bust than a defensive tackle because Nick Bosa can look awesome playing the edge against Illinois, Indiana, and all these teams. The thing is this, there's not that many. And Nick Bosa's probably, as an elite edge rusher, he's going against the starting right tackle or left tackle in the NFL. And there's not too many of those guys playing in college because there's not, there's 110 teams. You got 220 starting tackles. Out of that, every year, maybe 4 or 5 of those guys end up being starting tackles in the NFL. And I think this, since you say that, you don't have offensive tackles with great kick steps they go against. And if you don't, a guy like Bosa looks like an even more of a monster because he is so fast off the edge that a lot of times if he's playing in Illinois or in Indiana, he doesn't even have to engage and use any kind of hand combat to beat the guy. He's just going to run the hoop, get off the edge, and get to the quarterback or the running back. Where in the NFL, he's going to more consistently face guys that can kick step and get their hands on him, and then you find out if he can play or not. Now, I'm not questioning Bosa because I think he's a stud. I think he's one of the top 3 players in this draft. I'm just saying at defensive end, that's what always worries me when I pick a guy that high. But when I see him, and he has been engaged against the tackle from Michigan, he has great feet and he has great balance.
So if Phoenix drafts Bosa and buys Foles, what does that do to that team? Does that make them contenders almost immediately?
That's the NFL. 2 quick moves can make you a contender quickly. I don't think it makes them a contender quickly, but I think that puts them one more draft away from being a contender, Anthony.
You broke up there. What team is this again?
The Cardinals. He's saying if
Cardinals.
Foles...
I think they're a while away.
Yeah. But
if they draft Bosa and then buy Foles, does that put him in the mix?
See, this is what I think, Anthony.
Not in that division.
I think this.
Not now? Okay.
I think if they buy Foles and they trade down and get multiple picks over the next couple of years, then 3 years from now, that move could make them a contender. I think by getting
But how
Bosa,
do they trade down?
What do you mean how do they trade down?
They just trade down for...
So the Giants...
Oh, they give up the number 1 pick? Yeah.
They give up their number 2 pick.
Let's see.
Or number 1 pick. They trade
number 1 pick.
And if you got a team that wants a Murray or a Haskins bad enough, you could end up getting their number 1, their number 2, their number 3, their number 2 next year, their number 3 next year. Look at how the Raiders have loaded up to be able to draft. They've got 3 first-round picks this year.
Yeah, that's why I think Foles becomes such a big part of this draft because he's out there. And there's, like you said, Mike, there's just so many teams that need quarterbacks. And, I mean, he's a Super Bowl champion quarterback. I mean, you can't pass on him if you're trying to build a franchise. You know, you just can't risk passing on him if you need that position.
Well, let's do this.
You know, some teams do and some teams don't.
Let's do this. Since we're about 50 minutes in, and we've got all this coming, next week we can do a post-combine and maybe break down the wide receivers and the running backs. We did the quarterbacks and the defensive ends or defensive linemen today, and we just make this a weekly segment where we do something like that. Sound good?
So the draft, that'd be fun.
Yeah,
sounds great.
All right. So
Anthony?
before we wrap
we
up,
should do a mock draft. Maybe not next week, but soon. We should do like a live mock draft.
We could do that. Anthony,
all right, I'll play the part. I'll play the part of who's the commissioner of the NFL? What's his name?
You want to be Roger Goodell? You make a lot.
Yeah, I got to be Roger Goodell because I'm not smart enough to be participating in a mock draft, and I'm not even going to try because Goodpaster will be on my ass like stink on shit.
Next up, let's do this. Let's wrap it up. Talk a little Antonio Brown. I know you have some thoughts on that. My first thought is this. This is what I would do. If this is my team, and I've got Antonio Brown, who I think may be the best wide receiver in football, you know what I would do? I would go after Nick Foles and get rid of Ben Roethlisberger, keep Antonio Brown on the team, and I think you win the division next year. Am I nuts?
Wow.
I don't see that happening. You're not going to get rid. They can't get rid of Big Ben.
Why?
They're not going to get rid of Roethlisberger.
Why? He's a failure for a decade now, and he's been a cancer on that team. And this is the thing, Antonio Brown.
I agree. Listen, I agree.
We're not talking about.
I agree too, Mike. I agree with Mike. Yeah, I agree. Go ahead, Anthony. Speak for both of us because I'm on the same page you're on. Go ahead and you say it.
I think because Ben Roethlisberger has won the Super Bowls, a lot of Pittsburgh Steelers fans, they rather, say, okay, Bell's replaceable and Antonio Brown's replaceable over Big Ben, and they're not seeing that Big Ben is the catalyst of the issues.
But the Pittsburgh Steelers have never been a team that cared what the fans thought. I mean, if you remember, this is the same team that got rid of Kevin Green, they got rid of Greg Lloyd. They've gotten rid of numerous players. So I don't think they really care what they my point is this. It's not that I think they'll do it. I'm just saying, if it was my team, that's what I would do. I think a happy Antonio Brown with Nick Foles would do great things for them. I think it would make them a playoff team next year. It would surprise me if they ever make the playoffs again with Big Ben at quarterback. I just think there has been decline in his play. He's more streaky now than he used to be. And when I look at that, I just think that they would be better off with a younger Foles. Plus, this is a team that needs a leader. They don't have a leader anymore because it seems like people, for whatever reason, don't like Big Ben. You don't hear a bunch of current Steelers coming out to defend Big Ben right now. Nobody's saying anything. To me, that's very telling that what Antonio Brown says is probably right. And it probably has a lot to do with why Le'Veon Bell didn't want to screw with it anymore either. And I think if you gave Mike Tomlin Nick Foles, it would take care of a lot of problems because I think Nick Foles is a hell of a leader. You don't win a Super Bowl, especially playing like he did in that Super Bowl without being one. I'm not saying they'll do it. I'm just saying if it was me, that's what I would do.
Yeah, and speaking, when you say you don't see any current players coming to the aid of Ben Roethlisberger, what's exactly the opposite coming out of Philadelphia, Nick Foles?
Exactly. And if these players thought it was bullcrap and they knew Brown was gone and Big Ben was back, they would defend Big Ben. Even if they were on the fence, they would defend him because they got to play with him now. And they're not. So there's a serious issue there. And if they don't take care of it, they're going to have some major issues because that team's not as talented as what it was. But if you switch the quarterback position, they've got an offensive line. You got to go get a running back. But you still got maybe the best wide receivers in football for Foles to throw to if he's with the Steelers.
And Mike and Anthony, both I ask you, is Antonio Brown, is he the problem or is it just the problem is Roethlisberger is kind of being dumped on Brown because Brown just kind of said, I've had enough of Roethlisberger. I want out of here. And they, the beloved quarterback is always going to be favored, which is why you'll never get rid of Roethlisberger. Whether you're right, he probably should go. But is Antonio Brown going to be a cancer to another team wherever he goes?
No, I don't think he will. I don't think he will. I really don't. I think he's not going to be a cancer now, Anthony, just because if he is, then this will prove to be wrong. And I think Big Ben is a problem. Now, I think Brown has turned into a cancer because he's not happy to be there. I think generally the guy's an asshole and a troublemaker, but I think you're going to watch him straighten up if he goes elsewhere, especially if he goes somewhere with a strong head coach and a strong quarterback.
Like Indianapolis.
No, Indianapolis does not have a strong head coach. They have a strong quarterback.
If Antonio Brown was only an issue in the locker room, I can buy that. But Antonio Brown now off the field is becoming an issue. Didn't he throw furniture off a 15-story building and get into another altercation? It seems like ever since Antonio Brown got paid, Antonio Brown's getting worse. And I have some breaking news. Jason Witten is back with the Dallas Cowboys. He has ended his retirement.
Why?
Why?
Wow.
Can he still think straight? He wants to finish
NFL
it off?
Network Ian Rappaport.
He's coming out of the television booth and going back into a uniform?
Breaking news as we speak. Adam Schefter, NFL Network, ESPN, Jason Witten is coming out of the booth. And
I got to go to ESPN.
Cowboys.
Well,
Let's get on that Super Bowl train.
He
Let's
did
go.
suck in the booth, though, so he had to do something he didn't suck at.
I thought he was okay. Come on.
He sucked. Most of the guys suck. Everybody sucks. All right. I don't really think Jason Witten coming back really changes anything for the Cowboys because he's old.
Yeah, how old is he, Anthony? How old is he?
He's probably over 30-something, 35.
74. I just looked it up.
I mean, Antonio Gates.
74.
Antonio Gates is 38 years old.
Yeah, but Antonio Gates, I hate to say this, but is a lot better than Jason Witten.
Oh,
He just is.
What's going on with Bell?
And also, I don't think Antonio Gates did a whole lot this last couple of years, has he?
no, I mean, this year he really crashed, but, he was also splitting time in the past with Hunter Henry. And I think Antonio Gates is better suited to be a role player behind Henry and as a red zone weapon than a full-time starter like he had to be in 2018.
Yeah, I just don't see how this will work out because Antonio Gates also didn't retire and go hang out in the booth for a year either. I don't think that's real conducive to playing again. It hasn't been in the past. I could be wrong. And remember this, Gates had 333 yards receiving this year. So, I don't think it matters. Anthony will get all excited because Jason Witten's coming back. But,
All right, well, I'm not ecstatic about it right now.
I'm not seeing it anywhere. I'm on ESPN right now. Where are you finding that at? 'Cause I'm on ESPN right now, and I'm not seeing it.
Twitter.
Oh, Twitter? Okay. Well,
actually,
I don't follow the
it's on
Cowboys on
ESPN
Twitter.
right now.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'm on the main page of ESPN NFL.
Yeah, but on ESPN TV, they're breaking it. They break it on the TV first.
Oh, on TV? All right, let's see. I'll go there. All right, go ahead. So what happens with Bell, Le'Veon Bell? Where's he going? Breaking news, Jason Witten will end his return to the Cowboys.
I think Le'Veon Bell next job will probably be owning like a pot dispensary or something, or a McDonald's. Le'Veon Bell doesn't matter. Who cares? Le'Veon Bell's to cancer in all this. I think Antonio Brown and Big Ben are savable. I think Le'Veon Bell's not. Just my opinion.
I love you, Mike Goodpaster.
Well, it's true, though. I mean, he weighs 250 pounds. He's obviously,
260
smoking
pounds.
some weed because they took a picture where they had a little bit of paraphernalia there. So, and this is the thing. What about Tyler Eifert going to the Cowboys?
I mean, does this change anything now?
Well, with Tyler Eifert, your problem is this. It's the injuries. Because
Injury.
Yeah. When you look at Tyler Eifert is 10 times better than probably 80% of the starters in the NFL. But it's been years. Ever since he got hurt in that Pro Bowl, he's had injury issues. Also, by the way, I looked up Jason Witten and Antonio Gates, and their stats are damn near identical. They're like within 100 or 200, or within 100 receptions and 1,000 yards of each other.
Who was the better blocker?
Actually, I think they both blocked pretty well
to.
for tight ends. I couldn't tell you because I really didn't watch a lot of Chargers or Cowboys games. Because I always felt like they were trying to force me to watch Cowboy games by putting them on Monday night all the time. Let's see.
It's America's team, baby.
America's team.
It's not.
But the LA Rams
America's
aren't,
team
for sure. Nah, the Pittsburgh Steelers are.
No,
I'm
not an LA Rams fan. I'm a Colts fan.
They're
not America's team.
I hate the Steelers. The Steelers are America's team, though. The Steelers. No, when the Steelers went to Dallas 2 years ago, Anthony, half the crowd was black and gold. I hate.
Yeah,
both
of those. The Steelers travel well.
Yeah, because they got.
I'm sitting here right now watching some idiot talk about Jason Witten at the Lucas Oil Stadium, and I'm seeing my season ticket seats that I used to own.
Nobody cares.
How sad.
All right, Anthony, what day we want to do this next week, Steve?
Whatever. It's good for you guys. I mean, we don't have a schedule laid out for next week yet, so let's book this in and we'll build around it. Let's book it in and build around it.
You want to go Monday? Or did you ask the one dude for Monday? Or
No, I'm not asking anybody. No, I didn't. We're going to have Kent Sterling on sometime next week, but, I mean, whatever we want to use him.
How about this?
We can fit him in. I think this is more relevant with Anthony that we get this because I think the draft's coming up shortly. And
is this weekend. So let's go. We'll talk
this
Combine
week, so
Monday
with
Anthony, and then maybe Anthony will break down the offensive linemen in the draft. Sound good?
Sounds great.
I'm for that.
Maybe we'll build this once a week by doing one or two positions, breaking all the players down, and at the end of that, probably in 3 or 4 weeks, just do a mock draft on the show.
I'll moderate. Really, I'm not qualified to do a mock draft with you guys, but I'll moderate.
Okay, Steve's not qualified to do much of anything, so.
No, I'm not. Not in the terms of the depth and breadth of depth you guys have in the sport. I mean, I'm not a football guy. If we were doing a basketball mock draft, I'd get involved, but I'll be a part of it.
You don't watch the NBA. How the hell you get to do an NBA mock draft?
I watch college basketball.
Why? Only half the guys come out of college. The other half come from teams in Europe.
I played in Europe.
Yeah, in like the Stone Ages.
Yes, it was, no doubt.
All right.
But no, that would be fun to do. But I think this is the most important thing we talk about right now is get a mock draft going, look at the Combine, and I'm just missing Indianapolis right now because I'm looking at Lucas Oil Stadium.
Yeah, that sissy place with a roof because all the Colts fans are sissies. Anthony, you want to tell us where they can hear you on the FF Faceoff?
Yes, you can follow the show at the FF Faceoff on Twitter and all the other social media platforms, especially YouTube. That's youtube.com/the FF Faceoff. And you can follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru.
All right, guys.
Where else can we follow you at?
Everywhere.
You can follow Anthony.
I'm all over.
You're not going to plug the grillingtruth.net?
I think I just did.
I'm on the Grilling Truth. We're doing the Grilling Truth show right now.
Plus, you got to say you come to the first place you go look for me is on the grillingtruth.net.
All right,
Jeez,
Steve.
We don't do this crap for free.
Steve.
What?
You do realize that I said you want to tell people outside of the Grilling Truth where else they can find you on the internet?
I didn't hear that. I was watching Kyler Murray get measured for height. And he's only 5'9.5".
He's 5'10" and 1/8 of an inch with 9.5-inch hands. You know what that means. All right, guys, we're going to be back after a 1-minute commercial break with Bobby Sheridan. Make sure you check out the FF Faceoff on thegrillytruth.net. If you go in and you punch that in the search bar, you'll get it. They did a show yesterday, also on YouTube. We'll be back in 1 minute.
Hello, boxing fans. I'm Michael Montero of Montero on Boxing. You may have read my work in Boxing Monthly Magazine, Ring Magazine, or their associated websites, maybe Undisputed Champion Network, maybe you've heard my segments on NBC Sports Radio, or any of the other platforms where I do work regularly. I wanted to invite you to check out my podcast, The Neutral Corner. We upload it every Monday. It's available on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, and of course at thegruelingtruth.net. Every week we go over the news, the rumors, the latest fights being put together. We analyze everything, give you the business behind the business, and then we review all the action that took place in the ring during the prior week around the world. Not just the big popular fights, but all the fights, including the little guys. And then, of course, we preview the action coming up this week. Again, Michael Montero, The Neutral Corner, iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, and thegruelingtruth.net.
All right, guys, we're back on Survive Advance. I'm Mike Goodpaster. Of course, I'm with Steve Risley. And now we'd like to welcome in Bobby Sheridan from the Sheridan Report. How you doing, Bobby?
Hey, Mike and Steve. How are you guys doing this morning?
We are doing outstanding because Kyler Murray is 5'10". What's your top play for tonight?
Okay, well, we'll go straight into it. You asked, so, you're the leader. Well, you're the head analyst.
I want to know who to go bet on. I want to make some jack today, Bobby. Show me the money, Bobby.
Right,
Show me the money.
All right, Steve. Are you with us on this? Let's go with the Cavaliers are the top play of the night. They're the NBA top play. We have two top plays, and we're going to analyze the NBA top play in just a moment, and it's the Cavaliers over the Knicks. But we've also got a top play from college, and it's in the Pac-12, which has been a little bit of my nemesis this year. It's been one of three conferences that I've covered pretty extensively with the Big Ten and also the Big East, and I haven't really fared that well picking in the conference, to be honest. But I think we're on something here recently, and we've got a nice selection tonight on the USC-UCLA game, and UCLA is a 3.5-point favorite there, so you can get that game on the website. You can order that for $10, get the whole report, and that game will be part of it. We've also got a game from the Big Ten that we like tonight. That's the Minnesota Northwestern game that'll also be on there. And then the free play for this evening is the Jazz. They're getting 7 points at Denver, and this is going to be a great game to watch for NBA fans. These are two teams that play the game really well, and that's going to be a very competitive game tonight. And that's a free play, the Jazz plus the 7, even though they're off of no rest. But that doesn't bother me too much tonight, and there's reasons why, but we're not going to go into that because we're going to analyze this game, guys. The top play of the night is the Cleveland Cavaliers. And, both the Cavs and the Knicks, if you follow TSR, we've been on both these teams the last week or two a few different times. And we've had wins with them a few different times. And we talk about, well, why? Why would you bet on bad teams? Well, because they're not currently bad. Okay, the Cavaliers are coming off a 3-2 homestand with wins over these Knicks, Suns, and Grizzlies. And the one of the losses of the two was a 3-overtime loss to playoff-bound Nets and a loss to playoff-bound Portland where they trailed by 25 and closed within 1 with 3 minutes to play. And they eventually lost by 13, just ran out of gas and got outscored in the last 3 minutes by 12 points. So it was a great homestand. It could have been a 5-0. This is the Cavs, guys. Now, these two teams, the Cavs and the Knicks, are going to be in the bottom 3, including the Suns. And so they all will have 14% chance to get the number 1 pick. So there is no tanking. The NBA put the rules in where you wouldn't lose on purpose to be the worst record. If you're among the bottom 3, you have equal chance. So these teams are playing well. They just played each other on February, I believe it was the 11th, if my memory is right on my research. And the Cavaliers beat the Knicks 107-104, never trailed in the game. They went wire to wire. And this was when Kevin Love just came back into the lineup a 2-3 weeks ago, and he only played 14 minutes. And he's now up to 30 minutes and playing very well, getting 20 and 10 average or thereabouts. So he'll be playing 30 minutes tonight. And yet, despite him not really playing much in that game, they out-rebounded the Knicks 56-46. And they won despite having 18 turnovers. And as I said, they led this game wire to wire, and they had 6 players in double figures. So, they're playing really well. Now, the Knicks are also playing improved ball, and they're getting a lot of scoring from their bench, but they're just 2-4 as a home favorite, and they're 0-2 against the Cavs this season. And so, basically, you don't want to be laying points with a team like the Knicks. Even though they played improved basketball, you do not want to be in a position as a favorite here. So, eyeball test, Cleveland is a much better coach team, more solid team mentally, and I think that if you take the Cavs and the points tonight, you're going to be in good shape. So I think they're going to get the season sweep, guys. And so the Cleveland Cavaliers are my top play, and we just had the Knicks as a top play 2 nights ago. So that's life in the big city. You got to be able to zig and zag and know where the spots are. And we think it's with the Cavs tonight. So there's your top play.
All right. What happened on this day in history? February the 28th, 2019.
In this day in history, back in 1981, this was about a month before our partner there, Steve Risley,
the prehistoric, what was it they called that at Lawrence Central, Steve? The old days or something?
There's Steve. I haven't heard his voice yet. There he is. There's Steve.
It was the pre-something. Pre-modern era.
This is Steve, I've got a picture of you. Well, Survive in Advance, has the picture of you holding the national championship plaque, and I see that picture every day. And a month from now, you held that. I don't know exactly what day, but roughly a month from now, you held that. And this was the same year that Calvin Murphy set the NBA record for free throws. We talked about Issel yesterday at 62. Well, Murphy he won it. And Mike, is it 78? Are you looking at it right now? 70. Did he hit 78 in a row?
Oh, yeah. I think it was 78 in a row.
Yeah, he hit 78 in a row, and he so I want to hear some thoughts on Calvin Murphy if you guys have got any. But I also want to talk about the year of '81, which was the Hoosiers, and we've talked about that a lot. But it was also the year of the Celtics.
No, it was also the year of the Bengals going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, so
and the Reds had the best record in baseball, but didn't even get to go to the playoffs because of that stupid strike shortened season.
Well,
split it
that's another week. That could be another discussion.
And you can play. We combine those with the '81 Celtics, but the two facts that stand out to me about Calvin Murphy don't even have anything to do with basketball. Number one, he fathered 14 children by 9 different women.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's a lot. And he was a world-class baton twirler. I think he won a national championship with it, too.
Mike, I did know that. I had forgotten that, but I did know that. Yeah, that's amazing. That is just amazing. Wow.
Steve, did you ever twirl a baton?
Yeah. No. My wife did. She was some kind of baton twirler for high school band, but I didn't.
Huh.
So, no.
So don't you think that would help hand-eye coordination?
I've twirled a golf club.
How about this?
I've twirled a golf club on my 2 hole-in-ones that I've had in my life, so,
How about this? Don't you think maybe part of the reason he was such a great free throw shooter, because I was just thinking about this, was to be able to throw a baton like that and catch it, you have to have abnormal concentration, which is the key to shooting free throws, I think, Steve.
Well, I think
they're not called free throws for a dumb reason. Yeah, they should be free.
Hey, how about this, Bobby? Don't you talk over Steve. Go ahead, Steve.
No, I have no other comments.
I think also he's the shortest dude to ever be in the Hall of Fame. And the thing that sticks out to me the most, he played college basketball at Niagara, and I think the last year he was an All-American, Pete Maravich and Rick Mount were also on the All-American team.
That's good
stuff. Is Nate Archibald not in the Hall of Fame?
He is, but I think Murphy was slightly shorter. I'm not sure.
Shorter than him? Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
They were both like 5'8". They were both amazing players.
Yeah, 5'8".
Yeah, and you talk about...
Both of them were, both great players, too. Yeah. Both great basketball players.
Yeah. I mean, Calvin Murphy, the thing about Murphy I remember is I think he got picked by the San Diego Rockets, which then became the Houston Rockets. But they were a playoff team from the mid-'70s to 1979, and they were usually pretty good. And this is the thing people don't remember. They actually were playing in the Eastern Conference then, because I remember, I think they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals against the Washington Bullets in like 79. Not 100%
sure. Yeah, was that Wes Unseld's team? That was Wes Unseld's team.
Wes Unseld, Elvin Hayes, Bobby Dandridge, Kevin Greavy.
Yeah, great team.
Yeah, they were great teams. So were the Supersonics. Yeah. But the Rockets actually played in the East.
Sigma was on then, back then. Jack Sigma.
Dennis Johnson was the stud.
Dennis Johnson, he's part of
downtown Freddie Brown.
Freddie Brown, downtown Freddie Brown.
And the best thing about those NBA Finals was that the Supersonics and the Bullets had like the coolest uniforms ever. I refused to watch a Washington Wizards game because once they changed the name to the Wizards from the Bullets, I was just pissed off and angry. I love those uniforms, and the cool thing is my son, when he was like 6 years old, my older one, Austin, and he started playing in a basketball league, I got on eBay and I bought him a little Wes Unseld jersey that had the striping on it, and he used to wear it to every practice.
Yeah.
That's messed up.
Those were the red, white, and blue ones, weren't they?
The red, white, and blue stripes. Yeah.
Yeah, they were great uniforms. Best uniform, great uniforms.
Greatest uniforms outside of, I mean, that and the Houston Astros old home uniforms. But,
the old rainbow home uniforms. And then the Sonics had, when they were green and yellow, they had great uniforms, too.
Yeah, they were cool as hell. Oh, everybody's uniforms back there were cool, and they ruined it by changing them all.
Nike. Thank you, Nike.
Yeah. And the other thing, 1981 reminded you talk about the Celtics. That's the first time Bird won it all. But the Rockets, I think, they were either 500 or below 500. I think they were either 41-41 or 40-42. And that's back when the NBA playoffs used to have a first-round series that was best of three. They were the 8th seed. They played the defending world champion Lakers in a best out of three. And what I remember about this is they upset the Lakers, I think, in Game 1 at the Forum. Game 2, they come back and they lose in Houston with a chance to close them out. Game 3, I'll always remember because a lot of people don't remember this, but up until the mid-'80s, a lot of people questioned whether Magic Johnson could handle pressure situations. Because in 81 in this game, he has the ball and he's dribbling it with the clock running out down by a point. He dribbled the clock out. He didn't shoot the ball. And then if you fast forward to the 1984 NBA Finals in Game 2, people forget, at the end of regulation, in a tie game, he did the same thing. He dribbled the clock out, didn't even get a shot off. There was a lot of people that questioned, whether pressure situations, affected Magic Johnson. And after that...
I remember that.
Yeah, and then after that, Houston pulls another upset. And I think that they ended up beating, I'm not 100% sure here. If I'm wrong, but it was either in the semifinals or the finals. But I think that Western Conference Finals in 1981 was between them and the Kansas City Kings, who had Mike Woodson on them, who played with Steve, a year before. Was Woodson a senior in 79 or 80?
He was senior in 80. Yeah, he was not part of the championship team. We wish we could have given Michael a ring. Because, we all...
Michael was an outstanding player. I mean, one of the greatest Indiana
Mike was the greatest guy in the
ever.
world. Mike Woodson is one of the greatest gentlemen and greatest basketball players in the history of Indiana. And we all talked about trying to find a way, and Coach knocked it down. He said no, but we had all discussed about, let's give Woody a ring. And I don't know if, what the deal was there, but we all mentioned that we'd like to get Woodson a ring because we felt he deserved it. Because he's so much a part of our championship team in 81 after what he'd done, and to be as great a player as he was, to miss out on not getting his ring, it was tough. A tough call. But
but Coach Knight
so,
was
anyway,
Coach Knight
side story.
there.
Here you go. This is what it was.
No, he made the right call. Yeah, he made the right call. I mean, but I get it. But, the thought was there. But I think
actually, did you know
Kansas City team, Scott Wedman was on that team too, wasn't he? Wasn't Scotty Wedman on that team?
Yeah, Scotty Wedman was on the 81
he
team.
He was a great jump shooter, great basketball player.
There was only 6 teams that made the playoffs back then. I forgot about this.
Mm-hmm.
And they were, I don't know how they did that, but what ended up happening is you had the Western Conference Finals. I did have to look this up because I couldn't remember what the Rockets' record was. They were 40-42. They played the Western Conference Championship against the Kansas City Kings, who were 40-42. So you had 2 teams there that had losing records playing to go to the NBA Finals. And Kansas City upset Portland in 3 games in the 3-game short series. Then they upset Phoenix at Phoenix in Game 7. And then, of course, they lost in 5 to Houston. That was a year where both teams in the finals were below 500. And I think the stud on the Kansas City team, if you remember, was Otis Birdsong.
Otis Birdsong, yeah. And Portland would have had Walton at that time, wouldn't they? Walton would have been playing for Portland back then.
Though. But yeah, I think he was on the team. No, did he go to the Clippers
He was on the
in
team,
80?
yeah.
I think he went to the Clippers in 80. Hold on. Let's look.
Yeah, he was
Did he?
already gone from Portland. Yes.
He's already gone from Portland? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
was
Because
with
he
the
won a
San Diego
championship with Portland.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
won it-
75.
Didn't Portland
No,
won a championship
77.
with him? Yeah.
He won a championship in
Or
77.
77,
excuse me.
Yeah, because that
Yeah.
was when they
Go-
started
Golden
Rip
State
He had the
won in
long red
75.
hair and the bandana he wore around his head all the time. It was,
Well, and the interesting
Yeah.
thing, and I'm sure we can talk about it sometime in the future, is 1975 was probably the greatest upset in NBA history when the Golden State Warriors beat that great Washington Bullets team. Because not many people
Right, Al
gave
Allen.
that Warriors team much of a chance either with Rick Barry and those
Rick
guys.
Barry.
Yeah,
Rick Barry and those guys, yeah.
but all right.
Yeah.
But, Mike, I wanted to mention in '81 when I did my research on this, because I knew, of course, we were going to talk about this. Cedric Maxwell, not Bird, was the MVP of the finals.
Oh,
Did you guys know that?
1984 Game 7, Cedric Maxwell was the
Cornbread?
reason they won that. I mean, Cornbread was a stud. And the thing about Cornbread is in
Yeah.
1977, he was the player on that North Carolina Charlotte team that took them all the way to the Final Four, and they lost the game controversially to Marquette, or they probably would have won the national championship that year. And the interesting thing to tie this into Steve is what? Who knows the interesting thing about Cedric Cornbread Maxwell and the 1970s UNC Charlotte 49ers, and where does that, coincide with Steve Risley?
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank.
In
Yeah.
1976, they won the NIT the year before winning the national championship in 1977. And the reason I bring that up
Okay.
is he was the MVP of that NIT too. I think they might have even beat Kentucky in that. But the thing about that is,
Well-
if you look back at the 70s up until about 1983, there was a correlation between teams making the Final Four of the NIT or winning the NIT, and then the next year
And then
going on to make a
winning
run in the
championships.
NCAA tournament. And the reason that was is me and Steve had the conversation about 1979. And in 1979, you had 3 Big Ten teams in the Final Four of the NIT, which was Ohio State, Purdue, and Indiana. All right?
Indiana.
Now, when you look at that, in 1980, Ohio State went on, I think they made it to like the Sweet 16. I think they upset UCLA
Purdue goes to
in
the
the
Final
tournament.
Four.
Purdue goes to the Final Four. Indiana goes to the Sweet 16. Indiana wins it all in 1981. But the whole
So
point
the
of-
NIT was a good tournament, yeah.
well, the reason it was a good tournament was this. When you looked at it, the Big Ten, because it was only 40 teams at the time, you had 3 teams that were basically top 25 teams in the country, all going to the NIT from the Big Ten, and the only other team that made it to the NCAA tournament in 1979 was Iowa. And then if you look forward there, 1980, Iowa's in the Final Four. Purdue from the NIT is in the Final Four. So the tournament was more important because you would have the 3rd, 4th,
Right.
5th, 6 best teams from the Big Ten, the ACC, and those conferences were all in this. And if you're the 3rd best team in the Big Ten at that time, you're a top 20 team. That's why the tournament mattered,
Right.
because there was only 40, and you were only taking 2 teams from a conference.
Where did we finish in the Big Ten in 1979, Mike?
I
Where did
think you
Indiana
finished
finish?
5th. I think you were 5th. I think you were
We
the
were
last team to
5th?
get
Were we
in.
that
Yeah.
low?
Yeah, because I think you guys ended up like 21-12, 22-12, and then you had Iowa.
Yeah.
Iowa actually tied Michigan State in 1979 for the Big Ten title, but Michigan State had beaten Iowa twice. Both of those teams go to the
They won the
tournament.
tiebreaker.
Yeah, and then I
Right.
think 3rd was Purdue, 4th was
Ohio
Ohio
State,
State,
had to be.
and 5th was you guys. One
Yeah,
way or the other, it was
'cause
in that order.
Because Ohio State had Herbie Williams. And did they have Kellogg by that time? Did they have Kellogg in 79?
I
I can't remember if he was 1 year behind me.
I think they did. I think Kellogg
Yeah.
graduated
Did
in
they?
1982. I'm not 100% sure, though.
But they had Kelvin Ramsey, Carter Scott. They had Herb Williams. It was a great team. Purdue had Joe Barry Carroll. They had Arnett Holman, Drake Morris. They had the Walker brothers. And they were a great basketball team. Yeah, I mean, it was a bitch. It was a bitch that, but I think that's why I don't discount us winning the NIT in 1979, because I think at that point in time, because of the limited teams that played in the dance, that it was a relevant tournament. Now I think it's not a relevant tournament
wouldn't
anymore.
You say that
it's a sideshow now?
Don't you think that tournament became relevant for Indiana because they happened to play Purdue in the championship game?
Yeah, sure.
We
happened to win it.
Yeah, if you beat Ohio State, it's not as big a deal that we beat Purdue, correct? Even though Ohio State was a damn good team.
Yeah, and they had Jerry Seasting, who had a really solid pro career, played with the Celtics for a while. I think he's still with the Celtics organization, I believe. Or is he with Minnesota?
Who was that? I didn't hear you say it.
Jerry Seasting.
Oh, Jerry Seasting.
He was
I don't know. He played for the Celtics and the Pacers. I know that.
Celtics. Yeah. He had a long career too.
Well, Clark Kellogg was the first round pick by the Pacers in 1982.
Pacers, yeah. No, and I actually went to that camp with him. I was actually asked to come to that basketball camp and participate in that camp. And, I got cut, as we would all expect, but I went to the camp. Jack Ramsey was the coach then.
Oh, Jack Ramsey was the coach of that 1977 Portland team that won it all with Bill Walton. And this is the thing. Little known fact about Jack Ramsey is he was the first Indiana Pacer coach to ever win an NBA playoff game because they made the playoffs for the first time in the NBA in 1980, and they got swept in that mini-series by the 76ers and Julius Erving, 2-0. They didn't make the playoffs again until 1987, and in 87 they were down 2-0 in a best-of-5 against Atlanta with Dominique Wilkins. And I remember watching this game on Channel 4. I could barely see it because I live out in the middle of nowhere, and we had a big antenna so we could pick up the Pacers game. And I think that Pacers team had John Long, who shot the ball every time he ever freaking touched it. But they won Game 3.
From Detroit.
He
was from Detroit.
Yeah.
Dick Vitale's disciple, yeah.
Yeah, he also played for the Pistons with Vitale, too. And he could score a lot of points, but they won their first – they didn't win the series, but they won their first ever playoff game under Jack Ramsey. And then, of course, he left. They made the playoffs again in the early 90s a few times, and then Reggie Miller got him up to speed. But once again, you never know where we're going at the end of the show.
Yeah. Two things. I can tell you stories about Dick Vitale recruiting me when he was at Detroit. And he would literally call me on the phone and be Dick Vitale. You couldn't get him off the phone. and it's like, and I'd finally say, Coach, do you realize I'm white? You want me in Detroit? Really? Seriously?
Yeah, but I'll tell you,
it's going to work.
He did some great things with that program. Because
in Detroit. No, they did. Yes.
1977.
He was a great coach in his day.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I would have played with Terry Tyler and John Long. I would have been. I mean, he sent me brochures. They had a pool table and a quadraphonic stereo system in the locker room, and it's like he shows me pictures of, well, baby, come up here. We got a pool table. We got everything, baby. You come up to Detroit and play. We got it all, baby. I'm telling you right now, you'll fit in, Risley. You'll be right in here. We got you, baby. You're a PT player, baby. We got you. We need you. I'm like, Coach, do you realize I'm white?
Yeah, but hey, that 1977 Detroit team made it to the Sweet 16
of the
tournament.
Yeah.
They got beat, I think, by like a point or two by Michigan. And then to tie it back into Cornbread Maxwell is Cornbread Maxwell and UNC Charlotte, I believe in the Elite Eight, beat Michigan to go to the Final Four. But all right, guys.
And then for Jack Ramsey, when I went to camp in '82, tragically he had a bike accident, if you remember.
Yeah.
And had suffered some brain injury. I don't know. I knew he had a bad bike. He was in trouble for a while, and I know that when we went, and Davey Craig was the trainer there at the Pacers, and on our practice gear we had plastered everywhere on our shorts, on the shirt, the first name Steve, Clark, everywhere, because he couldn't remember anybody's name. So when he was coaching the camp, they would plaster the first name of every player on all the practice gear they gave us. And so the big yellow letters on blue gear. I'll never forget. I for a while, I still had the equipment, that I'd gotten from going to Pacers camp that year.
Wait a second. That wasn't Jack Ramsey. Jack Ramsey was the coach you played for. I'm not questioning that. But the Jack who had the bicycle accident was his assistant coach, Jack McKinney.
Yes,
because I
Jack
think.
Oh, okay, it was
because
McKinney then. Yeah, then it was
McKinney-
McKinney was there too. Yeah,
McKinney at one point was the
coached
head
the Lakers,
coach
didn't he?
of the Lakers.
Did he coach
yeah.
the Lakers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's
So
when
it was
when you
McKinney,
said
yeah.
that, I'm thinking that was Jack, but I don't think it was him. But I think it was Jack McKinney. Bobby, do you remember that?
Yeah. Yeah, it was
Well,
McKinney. You're right.
I was with you, Mike. I was thinking, I was on it when Steve was saying it. I just wasn't going to say anything until he was done. You know?
Well, I was trying to remember what the guy's name
Yeah,
was.
it was McKinney. And actually, Ramsey never. It was McKinney all along. It wasn't Ramsey. Ramsey, I don't think ever coached the Pacers.
Yeah, he did. Ramsey was the one that won the first playoff game for the Pacers. He did coach them. And
It wasn't McKinney? Are you
no,
sure about that?
I'm positive it was Jack Ramsey. I'm not even looking it up.
Okay.
I know it was Jack Ramsey. But
I'll
Jack
have to look that
McKinney,
up.
Jack McKinney was still his assistant. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Ramsey and McKinney were close. So it's possible you did have both of them there as coaches in that.
No,
thing.
yeah, well, we did. We had everything plastered, just first name, big letters on every piece of equipment you had. So they could read your name because they couldn't remember, you know.
All right, we're gonna.
Hey,
go
Mike.
ahead.
Oh well,
What?
just old stories.
Mike,
Yeah.
this is a quick blurb because I know we're moving away from this, but I looked up the roster of the '81 Celtics. No Jerry Seastein. But
No,
I
he
looked
wasn't.
up the
Jerry
three
Seastein
centers.
wasn't until 1986.
Okay. So I wasn't sure on that.
Yeah,
So
he
Yeah,
played
we
somewhere
were,
else
we were
first.
talking about Jerry Seastein because he played at Purdue on that 79 NIT
On
final.
79 team,
in
yeah.
that team,
Yeah.
I knew that. I knew that's why you guys went
Yeah.
there. But okay,
Yeah.
now, but I did
Hey,
see
Mike.
something I wanted to ask you guys about. The three centers on that team were, of course, Robert Parrish, who was a Hall of Famer type player. Rick Roby, of course, from Kentucky, was a pretty
Played against
well-known
him.
guy. But now here's
Played
the
Rick.
third center on that team. This is on their official roster. Eric Fernston. I never knew that name. Who is Eric Fernston? You guys familiar with that? He was the third center listed on the Celtics '81 roster. Eric Fernston.
I think I can picture him. Was he a white guy that had a mustache?
I don't see his picture, but I
Did you say
just clicked on his
Princeton or
name.
Frinston?
Fernston. F-E-R-N.
Bernstein is actually if he's who I think he is. He had black hair, tall, big, white guy,
Yeah, he
Had a
played
big-
at San Francisco.
beefy mustache. Yeah, had a big beefy mustache.
Yeah, he played at the University of San Francisco.
Yeah.
He played for the Cavs,
Yeah.
I think, at first. He just was like the 7
Yeah.
foot guy that's 70
Yeah.
in the
Journeyman.
bench.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he was in the league 5-6 years or something like that.
Off and on. I think off and on. And this is the thing about him is I think he actually played for the Albany Patroons too to tie it into Evelyn Magley in the basketball league. So
The basketball league. There you
Wow.
go.
I thought you said Eric Princeton, and I thought, damn, Bobby just
No,
stumped me.
it's actually Eric. I thought it was Feinstein. But it could be Fernston. I don't know. I mean, I remember Eric Feinstein. But if it's the
Yeah,
kid I think it is, he was a big, burly white guy with big black bushy hair and this big Tom Selleck type mustache.
Yeah.
This big beefy mustache he wore. If that's who I'm thinking it is.
Yeah.
And if I remember
And
him,
this is the thing. He
Yeah.
was the center at the University of San Francisco before Bill Cartwright, if I remember right. But just a little
okay.
tidbit.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Hey,
We're
Mike,
gonna-
I
All
had
right,
one last
guys.
question to ask you. Mike, wait, I had one last question to ask you. I should know the answer to this, and I don't. Who won an NBA championship first, Bird or Johnson?
Johnson, 1980, his first year, they beat the Philadelphia 76ers in 6 games. And then,
And then
Bird won
Bird
it
won
in
it in 81.
81. Yeah.
So then they didn't went head-to-head for the next 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
And Mike, it's interesting
Yeah,
because
okay.
Magic had the title in 80 and 82. So 2 of his first 3 years, they win the title. But 81 and 84, he dribbles the clock out.
Yeah.
And, the Lakers had 5 in the 80s and could have had 7 or 8. Because in 89, he pulled his hamstring, so did Byron Scott. In
They
the
weren't
finals
going to
against
win in
Isaiah.
89. And the thing you got to remember
Well,
about this.
we
in
don't know because they got hurt.
Yeah, we do. Hold on. This is my point. People forget. 1989, Cooper didn't miss until Game 3. And in 1989, Magic didn't get hurt until, I think, late in Game 2. They're down by 10. They were going to be down 2-0 anyways. I don't think they were beating that Detroit team because you didn't have – Kareem was pretty much done by then. I don't think.
That was his last year.
Yeah, and if you remember in '88, it took them 7 games to beat the Pistons, and really the Pistons should have won that series in 6, except for a highly questionable foul call on, I think it was either Rodman or Lambeer at the end of Game 6 that gave Kareem free throws. So they might have won a game, but you could say the same thing about 1983, because 1983, when they got swept by the 76ers, James Worthy had gotten hurt and missed all 4 games of that series.
Well, yeah, just, being a Laker guy, I'm out here on the West Coast. They won 5 in the 80s and could have won 7 or 8.
So you know, I'm not a Laker guy, so I'm going to shut it down every time. All right, guys. So I'm the opposite.
Yeah,
okay.
I love the Pistons because they had Isaiah and Lambeer, and they played at Indiana. So
let me clarify one thing. You were right. McKinney was the coach. Ramsey didn't coach the Pacers till '86, and I would have been out of it by then.
Yeah.
So when I went to camp was '82. So it was McKinney was the coach in '82.
Alrighty.
I just looked it up on Wikipedia.
Yeah, I knew Ramsey coached the '87 team. I didn't remember when he started though.
Yeah,
but
I just looked it up on Wikipedia. But he didn't start coaching the Pacers until '86. I would have been long gone by then. I went in '82, and that would have been Jack McKinney. So I was wrong in calling Ramsey McKinney. But there was a difference there. Just so I don't want people to think that I'm full of shit. Mike, I know you're smart, and you all think I'm just color.
No.
And
I knew what you meant when you said it. You just got the last name
Bobby
wrong.
says I don't have any knowledge at all, so we go with that. And but I want to clarify that to make sure it was McKinney that was the coach of the Pacers at that time.
I don't know where he's dreaming that up from. I mean,
Bobby, don't let him bait you. Yeah. All right, don't let him bait you.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna wrap the show up. We will be back tomorrow with Bobby and Cole Hanna, our NBA beat reporter, to talk a little NBA basketball. And tonight, remember, at 11 o'clock, me and Jeremiah Pricer on the Boxing Daily Show. And make sure you check out Steve Risley, Bobby Sheridan, and Alex Gray from last night's NASCAR show. But we're going to wrap it up. Make sure you follow Bobby Sheridan at Sheridan Report on Twitter. You can find him on the internet, thesheridanreport.com. You can follow Steve Risley at SRisley34. You can follow me at Grueling Truth. You can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Bobby Sheridan, Steve Risley, Anthony Cervino, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.